guys, Andy here. So we've always said that we wanted to bring out more videos for you, and this is an idea I've had kicking around in my head for a while. So basically I'm gonna sit here, do some hobby, explain what I'm doing, and chat about gaming. If you like it, let us know, and maybe we can convince some of the others to do their own or join me, and we can just talk, discuss the latest news and that sort of thing. So you know, I'm still working on my epic miniatures from the last video, which was, for a term of reference, filmed last night. So more paint on the wet palette. So I have, for a bit of a progress update, I have silvered, well, I've washed and dry brushed all of the minis, and I've done the lead belcher on everything that I feel is appropriate for every rhino. I haven't done the squad markings yet, but I'll probably come to that eventually. Still need to do the gold on them, but today I'm just gonna try and get all of the guns and any vents that I want done in silver. Lead belcher. It's a silver. It's a gunmetal. Yeah. Instantly you see how bad my poise can be. So these miniatures come from Vanguard, which is though the original designs were by Troublemaker Studios, I think, but Vanguard Miniatures bought the line off of Troublemaker when Troublemaker just couldn't keep up with it for a multitude of reasons, for which I'm grateful for because they're pretty cool. But they come on, they do the sprues like this. I don't know whether you can see it because the camera's quite far back, much further back than I originally envisioned. I basically just have a sprue in the middle, and then the gates go out to the bases, and then the miniatures spread for that, which makes it very convenient to use a pair of pliers to hold the miniatures via the sprue to paint them up. 6mm models are probably the only ones I would paint on the sprue like this. If they had like gates going onto the shoulder pads, then no, I'd chop them off, put them on old chopsticks individually and just paint them that way. But you know, this is quite convenient and allows us to do batch painting quite quickly. So 40k wise, this week we've heard that the final 2 codexes of the year will be the Angels of Death, Dark Angels and Blood Angels. And then the question came around of, well, is there going to be a Primarch with them? Because the Lion is obviously quite convenient to bring in because pretty much we know where he is. But I think that the window of opportunity for that hasn't been utilised. And by that I mean, we knew about Mortarion coming last year. It was a tease. It was like a 1 second tease of the scythe, but it was a case of, yeah, the Death Guard are coming. We knew this about this time last year. And what's that big scythe thing? Well, we've had Magnus, so maybe Mortarion. And then we got Guilliman in between the two, and 8th edition. So that was a surprise. So it's not entirely impossible that we won't get another Imperial Primarch, another Loyalist Primarch, but I'm just saying, if it was coming out in the next 7 weeks, we would have had a leak by now. Whether it would have been a deliberate leak by GW, you know, we've left the box in the background sort of image, or you know, someone in, you know, someone else through a friend finding a leak. Yeah, I'm not going to rule it out completely, but it's gone into the pile of this is unlikely this year. We were hoping for Plastic Sisters because, hey, always hoping for Plastic Sisters, but with the success of Celestine and the plastic Canoness that they released, and I wouldn't say outcry is not the right word. The enthusiasm shown for those miniatures and for female miniatures in general from Games Workshop, or from the fans to Games Workshop, and now the interaction with the community that they're having a lot more of. We would have thought, you know, Christmas release of Sisters, that's everyone's Christmas money sorted. They will sell. It's either that or brand new in January. And we know in January we're getting demons. Hopefully we're getting some plastic demons, more plastic demons. Some updated demons. I think there's a couple of them that just don't work very well. Like we don't have I don't believe we have a plastic Slaanesh Keeper of Secrets or a Great and Clean one. But the Great and Clean one I can see because he'll tie very nicely into the Death Guard release. I don't think we'll see a Keeper of Secrets because I think they're holding back on Slaanesh until they probably have already, but until they've worked out what exactly they want to do with Slaanesh in Age of Sigmar. Once they've got that down pat, and as I said, I think they already have because they're obviously working like a year, maybe 2 ahead. Once they work that out, we will then we'll see like a massive Slaanesh push. That's probably about the same time we'll probably see Fulgrim. I suspect Fulgrim will be the last of the core 4 demon Primarchs that we see. And I say core 4 as in like of the gods. I'm not saying that we won't see Lorgar, maybe, if he ever gets out of his... If they decide to take him out of him writing his memoirs, as he has been for the past 10,000 years. I think Perturabo is still alive, so having Perturabo turn up would be good. But then also, so would having a new Abaddon miniature. So yeah, that's coming. Next, this weekend, the 11th, is the pre-order for the new Necromunda coming out, and I only had a brief look in this month's White Dwarf. It looks interesting. I probably will pick it up eventually, but with Christmas coming up and lots of other projects that I'm involved in, I'm not going to grab it straight away. But there was something in White Dwarf that did catch my eye. You might not, and if you flick through the book, you might not have noticed it, considering what it was a sidebar for. On the splash page, where Forge World showed pictures of and a brief description of the Primaris Astraeus Super Heavy Grav Tank for the Space Marines that's coming out at some point in the future, there was a Lord of the Rings book called Battle Companies. Now, back when I were a lad, back in 2004, when I had just really started picking up White Dwarf, and I've been playing, well, collecting certainly, Lord of the Rings miniatures through the Agostini magazine for 2 or 3 years at that point. I think it was 2 years. Yeah, 2 years at that point. In the edition of White Dwarf where they revealed 4th edition 40k, they released a set of rules called Battle Companies for Lord of the Rings. Now, what is Battle Companies? I think I actually have the White Dwarf on my shelf here. Where is it? No, not that one. No, not that one. Oh, yes. Flip. Eyes of the Spirit. Yes, here we go. Indeed. So, here we go. In this edition of White Dwarf, we have Lord of the Rings Battle Companies. Lord of the Rings Battle Companies is a warband scale skirmish game, which Lord of the Rings was. It was a skirmish game. It was a warband game that was essentially the Lord of the Rings equivalent of Mordheim and Necromunda. And we're seeing a bit of a resurgence of that style of game. So, that style of game where you pick a set of fighters, one of them's a leader, some of them are a bit inexperienced, and you have a series of games, and in between each game, if you've achieved certain objectives, your characters and your fighters can level up and earn new skills and new abilities, or buy new equipment. It was very simple. It wasn't. It was a system published in White Dwarf. It wasn't going to be as in depth as, say, the campaign system from either Mordheim or Necromunda, but it caught my attention. It caught my attention in a big way. I spent a lot of that summer whilst I was considering getting in 40k, because I wasn't playing 40k by this point. 4th edition was my first edition, but it took me a long time sitting there just going, do I want to buy this? Do I want to buy this? And whilst I was doing that in a Games Workshop store, possibly the worst place to consider, do I buy this shiny thing? Because all of the staff members would go, buy the shiny thing. All the people I was playing with might have been probably going, you should consider buying the shiny thing. And for a 14-year-old, that's horrible. But, yeah, it was, but during that summer when I was, this is a September issue, so during that September, essentially, I spent most of my weekends going to my local store, which was the next town over, the next big town over, and we played Battle Companies. There was a 2 or 3 hour slot that they started that the store set aside and went, we've got the Sunday kids, the Sunday teaching, and you guys can play. And then after that, it's free gaming. We're open till 4 or 5. Play Battle Companies. And I played a Minas Tirith force because that was fun. I really like the Minas Tirith army. I had a lot of them. And at the time, I didn't really understand that their infantry was one of the strongest in the game because defense, they had one of the highest basic defenses because they were normal humans, which means they had a defense of 3, like normal humans have a toughness of 3. They then wore heavy armor for 5, and most of them, except for the archers, had a shield. And in Lord of the Rings, if you wore armor, which was known as light armor, you got an extra 1 to your defense, so that's 4. Heavy armor gave you 2, which was 5. Shields gave you an additional +1 defense because they didn't have armor save rolls. So it was all very streamlined. You roll to work out who won the fight, and then you roll to wound. Quite simple. So defense 6. Defense 6 was very hard to get through. Most fights, if we're talking, very rarely did you find anything that wasn't a monster that went above strength 3. So, 4s for equals, 5s for 1 above, and then 6s. So basically, I had an incredibly tough force that would only get wounded 1 in 6 in 1 in 6 attacks, which is why they got dogpiled. Which is, the way it was quite tactical in the terms of that you had to very carefully position your troops in fights so you could support one another, or at least break it down enough so that when the dice were eventually rolled, you had more chance of surviving the split ups than because you would put your models together. You declare who's charging who, you do move in, and then the fight phase would come around, and you go down the line and go, right, okay, I've got a priority, so I'm dividing up these fights. So that guy, even though technically that guy's fighting that guy and that guy, I'll put a dividing line there, so these two can fight that guy only one, my archer will only end up fighting one, and then my 2 spearmen will end up fighting your axe dude, and I'll Jim on the end with the shield and swords, and the sword, I think he'll be alright. But yeah, so Battle Company's really opened up my eyes, and then to a bit of narrative gaming. And I'd always been kind of aware of Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know where I picked that up, but I was always kind of aware that Dungeons and Dragons existed. I actually think it was the terrible Jeremy Irons movie that came on and was just like, but even then I was sort of aware of what Dungeons and Dragons was. Now, I knew it was a game. That was it. The movie came on and we watched it because my parents liked Jeremy Irons, and at the time when the movie was out, Jimmy Olsen from the New Adventures of Superman was in it. And I was just like, yeah, okay, that's cool, let's watch this. It's got dragons in it, it's fancy, it's going to be cool. But then I think my dad explained to me that Dungeons and Dragons was a game originally. It's an awful movie. But yeah, and it didn't make much sense. It really didn't make much sense. The only thing that was Dungeons and Dragons-y about it was there was a party of adventurers. Magic was weird. And there was a beholder in it. That's about it. Anyway, so the early role playing of, I've named my dudes. I've named the war band. They're telling stories about how Jim. I didn't call him Jim. I tried to do Tolkien-esque names, but let's call him. I can't remember any of them now. But Jim would, took on 3 orcs and slayed them all over 3 turns, and then which broke the back of the orcs' things and made them run away. And for his great gallantry, he gained an extra courage, point of courage, and then was elevated to the ranks of heroes and gained a might point, and therefore he was able to take the fight to the enemy. It was, yeah, that sort of thing. I mean, I'm sure you've got your own tales from Necromunda and stuff. But, so yeah, Adam Troke, the guy who originally wrote the first article, and one of the new guys at Games Workshop, one of the new rules writers, but someone who was always, but like me, was very keen on Battle Companies, have announced that they're bringing out an actual book for Battle Companies. Now this is brilliant, because they're bringing it up to date, with, in line with the rules that have changed since 2004, and the rules haven't changed a lot for Lord of the Rings. They've been refined, there's been updates certainly, but the core concepts haven't changed hugely. I'm pretty sure it would take me about 20 minutes to get back up to speed on how to play Lord of the Rings. Because it was a very, very simple system. But, words. This is the problem when you're just talking to camera. You can't think of words all the time. And they're also going to be bringing, that was it, yeah, they're also bringing in the new warbands. So we're going to probably have the Erebor dwarves from The Hobbit and Mirkwood elves. I think Mirkwood elves were, they did like another article, couple of article series, but you know, I'm talking more than painting, so let's get the brush clean so I don't have any paint on there. But what forces do we have in the original? One's on a normal kill. Yeah, here we go. Right, someone's Raw Hero army. It's very big. Yep. So it was Adam Troke, who is the one that's still around and is helping writing the new book. Alessio Cartavol, who is a very nice man. I met him at a Mantic Open Day, and yeah, like for the man who wrote Kings of War, I'm very glad he's helped out with this. And then and Matt Ward also contributed to this. I think this was before he became that Matt Ward. But yes, so you had a roster sheet where you can mark off experience and name your guys. That was pretty cool. So you had Mordor and Gondor, Rohan and the Uruk-hai, or the Isengard Battle Company as they were known, Dol Amroth and the Haradrim, and that was it for the initial release. And now I know in later issues of White Dwarf, they also did dwarves and goblins. They may have done elves as well. Can't remember. But basically, yeah. So basically, they kind of set it up as in a dichotomy of, well, if we obviously are going to have Gondor and Rohan in there, so who is they're most likely to face? Well, it's obviously you've got to have the Mordor orcs and the Isengard Uruk-hai. They're sort of iconic foes. Dol Amroth was interesting because it's actually a variation on Gondor, but it's much more about fiefdoms. The fiefdoms of Gondor. And in other issues of White Dwarf, again, this is to see how this all tied together, in older issues of White Dwarf they had lists of various fighters throughout Gondor that weren't warriors of Minas Tirith. So you had like kilt-wearing axemen, various other things, and the Dol Amroth ones were the Dol Amroth warband could bring those fighters in. So you could do things. It was never balanced. It was never balanced. That's the other story. But like it's like with Necromunda and Mordheim. Once someone got running away, then that was the game. So yeah, it was very interesting. I'm quite excited that it's coming back. I'm excited enough that I kind of want to put together a couple of war bands. Maybe not for battle companies, but a small skirmish, maybe 100-point force. If I can find my old Lord of the Rings rulebook, because I never got the update. I never. My copy of Lord of the Rings, the only copy I ever bought was the Return of the King edition. So yeah, I probably should pick up the new Hobbit strategy battle game rules, but I'm kind of hoping that when Forge World get around to doing it properly, it will turn into the Middle Earth strategy battle game, and I'll pick up that edition. But I'm tempted to pick up, see if I can dig out my old copy of Lord of the Rings, and see if I can get the guys to play, because I know Tom played it in university, and he seemed to enjoy it. At least he says he enjoyed it. I'm not too sure whether Steve will go for it. I'm not too sure whether Paul will go for it. But it's the game that got me into this hobby. It's the game that got me through a tough time when I was a kid. And it basically opened up this world for me and opened up the imagination and made me think movies differently and stories differently. So, and allowed me to, come all the way up here and talk to you guys about it. So, basically, that's my sit and talk, and my sit and paint. I didn't do much painting. I didn't do much painting, but so yeah, battle companies. That's cool. So yeah, this is my sit and paint. I hope you enjoyed me rambling for nearly half an hour about various small topics. And hopefully in the future we can do more of this. If you like, click on that thumbs up icon and leave a comment down below. Subscribe to us. Click our bell for notifications on our channel page. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and our website is explodingdicegaming.wordpress.co.uk. There's a link in the description below. So thank you for joining me. Good night.